Hello and welcome to the Fairy House, or at least one of the fairy houses. This is the craft project my kids and my wife have been working on the last few weeks. We're making fairy houses now. Anyway, I thought that might be a better start than this. To the week 12 introduction video. Welcome. It's a Merry Thanksgiving week, right? Thanksgiving. That's the thing this week. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna miss the waiver wire. Hopefully you all set your claims and stuff. Just in case you like to make claims after they've run through, or you didn't, or whatever. Names off the top of my head include Wendell Smallwood, which is a fun name. Might be a good 1 week pickup. Ryan Matthews got a bad knee. Sproul seems to be dealing with a rib in a safe place. I don't know what broken rib is a safe broken rib, but apparently Wendell Smallwood might get more run this week. Jeremy Langford, again, I've mentioned him before. He caught a touchdown last week, but it seemed to just be like when Jordan Howard was taking a break, so I don't know how serious that one is. But again, since Bears have now lost Jay Cutler, not that seems to have been a great quarterback for them last few games, but that might mean, well, it does mean Matt Barkley stepping in, and I imagine they might be crowding the box, which could mean more work for the passing down back, which seems to be Jeremy Langford, maybe. But who knows? And so those are the running backs I can think of that might be worth a pickup this week. There's a larger list, but I'm sure you're aware of more of them already, so I'm going to skip ahead because it's late, because kids wouldn't go to sleep at all today. Mainly because okay, I'll go through, I don't know why, but I'll go through roughly what happened in the games this week, and then I want to talk mostly about the standings, because it's we just refuse to die or refuse to win, one or the other, and so our standings continue to get, instead of getting further apart and more clear who's going to be in the playoffs, it's actually becoming less clear who is actually going to be in the playoffs, because that's just the way we roll in the JK Fantasy Football League. So, alright, first off, because it's first on the list, not just because it's got the best team in it, but kind of also that, we now know whose fault last week's draw was, and it was the Stony Jabronis, because they did it again this week. They drew with my team, the Dantes Mibro team, 113 points each. I'm going to go ahead and blame this on the Stony Jabronis, not just because they drew last week as well, but also because I think they have been dominant enough for long enough. Forgive me reading into this a bit, but I think they got a bit cute. They're just too used to winning. Playing James Starks, he played a terrible game, but caught a few passes and lucked into a touchdown. I think Aaron Rodgers just threw it hard enough that James Starks had no choice but to fall backwards into the end zone at 30 yards. And so he ended up with 17 points. But it seemed to be an ugly 17 points watching the game. But still, the cuteness really comes playing Tyreek Hill at flex. Yeah, I know he's been scoring. He's been a good pickup in a number of places, but you had Amari Cooper on your bench. And you know the whole play your studs rule, that definitely would have won it for them. So I'm going to blame it on cuteness and be very grateful, or actually, grateful isn't the word. What's the word? Accepting of this grand victory that you rightfully handed to me, because my bench had more points, frankly, which isn't a great way to win, but there it is. It's a tiebreaker. I had 70 points on my bench by the time it was all totaled, and Honey Badgers, Stone Jabroni, sorry, had 42 points, and so I actually got handed the win off a tiebreaker, this second tiebreaker in 2 weeks. That pulls me to 5-6. Remember that number because it's going to become popular. And Stony Jabronis fall once again to 6-5. Not Jerry's Cowboys was able to keep their winning streak going with a victory over the Honey Badgers. Sorry. So Not Jerry's Cowboys fall to 5-6, and the Honey Badgers again fall to 6-5. The other thing to note is the Stony Jabronis and the Honey Badgers are at the top of the same division, so they're fighting for a first round bye, or so you would think. I'll come back to that. The Texas, I suppose I better mention a little bit about why. I don't know why, you already know. I did it for my team, and I don't want to be accused of nepotism here. Just killing time while my really slow internet connection decides if I can or cannot look at the page. Okay, so we're not going through the game. Either way, Dak Prescott is not the reason that the Cowboys have been pulling off this victory despite the two great quarterbacks they now possess. It seems to be, if I remember right, they own DeMarco Murray, who continues to be running back one. That's twice in the last 3 years he's been there, so I guess we can just discount last year. With the Eagles, who are still struggling with running backs, which is kind of telling. In the next match, the Texas Pugs overcame the Sanchez butt fumbles. Texas Pugs rise to 5-6, and the Sanchez butt fumblers falls to 3-8. Now at 3-8, I'm pretty sure they're out. There's still the consolation bracket. Still keep setting your lineup. And I haven't looked at this before. Just for a moment of silence. So the fumblers, it's got nothing to do with the moves they've made. They've got a really solid team. Looking back, thinking back through the games that they've had, it's just been not the performances they needed when they needed them. It's a lack of fantasy football, I'm afraid, much more than anything they've done. Odell Beckham hasn't really pulled out the consistency of 20 to 30 points, but he's still been okay. He wasn't great this week, and overall it looks to have been mostly just seeking that running back one, that running back two. They benefited from LeGarrette Blount's strange season of being a good fantasy running back, with how many touchdowns does he have at this point? 13, 14? But anyway, they've not been able to find anyone to complement him with. And since I have Cam Newton, I'm going to go ahead and decide, remember that he was drafted ahead of most quarterbacks. And again, early quarterback tends not to pay dividends. And this is now the consecutive year since the start of fantasy football that the fantasy quarterback one from last year is not going to be the quarterback one this year, and that's consistent, and it's never been repeated as far as I know. But still, it's not why they're struggling. They've still got a very solid team. It's just been not been their season. But anyway, I do think at 3-8, well, my math sucks at this time in the morning, I do think that means they're disqualified from the playoffs. Kentucky Aardvarks and it hurts when Eifert is putting up the type of numbers the rest of us were putting up earlier in the season, but they're putting them up at the right time, continuing on a 6-game winning streak at this point. So that's not just put them into contention. I think that's earned them first shot at a first round bye in the playoffs. It's done so much for them. Kentucky Aardvarks put up a fairly good fight with 98 points. This point in the season, those fairly good numbers. And again, 3-8, the Aardvarks I think are now eliminated from playoff contention. The best they can do at this point is 5-8, and I don't think that would beat anyone, since the other teams above them already have 5 victories. Best they can do is draw level and hope to win on points, and I don't think that would happen mathematically. Alright, sorry, my throat's sore as heck. What was I talking about? Kentucky Aardvarks. Hey, a moment of silence for the Aardvarks. Again, incredibly strong team with Andrew Luck at the helm. Spencer Ware has been, I think, remains one of the best pickups of the year. Their main struggle seems to have been DeAndre Hopkins. I'm going to say most teams that have DeAndre Hopkins are not going to the playoffs. It's got nothing to do with anything other than another reason to curse Brock Osweiler, because at least for this year he has not been. And looking through most of our teams that are struggling, I would say it's wide receivers connected to bad quarterbacks that are just not outperforming their on-field play. Like Blake Bortles outperformed his on-field play in fantasy last year. and he has been doing that again, but not to the benefit of like Allen Robinson and Alan Hearns, and so the wide receivers tethered to these so-so quarterbacks at least just isn't pulling it through in fantasy like it did last year. So yeah, that's quickly as I can do the sad fall of the fumblers, or the aardvarks, sorry. Saxby Cutler, on the other hand, lost a game this week, so they remain at 5-6. There's that number again. Those numbers again, at least. But they lost to the Goofy Ridge Runners. Can't blame them much. There aren't many games. There are several games that would have won this week, at least with 111 points. But the Goofy Ridge Runners are fighting for that first round bye, tooth and nail, especially after outscoring everyone in the league. They're still 100, 150 points above the nearest team, and so we kind of see how they might expect a first round bye. Unfortunately, that 16 winning streak of Ertzman Eifert gives Eifert currently that first round bye because they're in the same division. Either way, they're both safely in the playoffs without question, but they're one game apart in who gets that first round bye. We're just going to leave them to it because the rest of the league, outside of the two teams that are now eliminated, the Fumblers and the Aardvarks, the rest of the league is in contention. All of it. And I wasn't sure of this, so I ran it through my not-so-bright noggin a few different times, and what's essentially happened is because Honey Badgers and Stony Jabronis have remained at 6-5. Last week they drew, so one of them got a victory to pull to 6-5. But everyone else won as well last week and this week, everyone in contention. So that means that they are now one game out from everyone trying to get back in. So last week there was one path to the playoffs, and that was to beat Saxby Cutler, who is still at 5-6 because they lost. The three contending teams, Dante's Bro, Texas Pugs, and Not Jerry's Cowboys, won. That means that they gained a game on Saxby Cutler, who are only maintaining that 6th round playoff berth because of the points scored. They have scored 1,278. The nearest contender is 1,250, and the other two fall closely behind. So that points advantage is basically non-existent. Everyone, I would say that all four of those teams own that 6th playoff berth right now, because whoever wins this week and whoever loses is really going to determine who gets it, and because the points are so close together, that how many points you score this week can get you that playoff berth, just with the amount of points you score, whether you win or lose your matchup. You can score 160 points and lose to a team that scores 170. As long as you're not playing one of these contending teams, then you can still get into that 6th place. And that was the original path last week. This week, because Stony Jabronis and Honey Badgers in the black division, it's always the black division. And that's the division I'm always in. We are always scrappers, I guess, and we just can't let anyone go too high or anyone fall too low, and so we always end up fighting out. Whereas the blue division always has two teams clearly at the top, always two different teams as well before you get too high and mighty there, first round buyers. I don't know what it is, but anyway, the same thing's happening again. Yeah, it's much tighter than we've ever had it before, and so at least it's been fun with math, like I said. So the second, and really the third, there are now, depending on how you look at it, there are 3 paths into the playoffs for those 3 teams I just mentioned: Dante's Bro, Texas Pugs, and Not Jerry's Cowboys. I've already mentioned the one that was true last week, the Sanchez Saxby Cutler team. Really, so it's really in the same group, but right now they own the 6th playoff berth. So the new paths are the Honey Badgers and the Stony Jabronis. Because they've remained at 6-5, that means they are one game out from those 3 contending teams. If they both lose this week and those other 3 teams win, they fall below all 3 of those teams. Wait, that would be 6-5. No, that will mean they draw level with those other 3 teams, which would put it again down to points scored, which is week to week. It changes week to week. You can score 20 points more than them and be ahead of them in the seeding. So I don't think both of those teams are going to lose this week. In fact, they're both more likely to win than any of those other three teams. But outside of probability, mathematically, they put their playoff position in contention. They cannot fall out of the playoffs. No, actually they can. If all three of those teams won and they lost and they scored more, yeah, they can fall out of the playoffs at this point, because it's become so tight. Again, unlikely, of course, but it does mean there are 2 extra spots now in play. So that's kind of crazy. I don't think it's ever been this tight. All the seeding for the Black Division is open up for achievement, up to be won. So right now, you can go to standings and then you click on the little extra menu below to look at the playoff bracket. Just in case I wasn't sure where I was doing this. I'm not doing it in my head. Not nearly that clever, as you know. But right now, Earth One Eifert have earned a first round bye. The top team in each division gets a first round bye. After that, it's done on seeding based on wins and losses, regardless of division. So Saxby Cutler would face Stony Jabronis, and Not Jerry's Cowboys would face the Goofy Ridge Runners. The thing is, because all those teams are in contention, no idea. We've got 2 games left, this week and next week, and that will decide it. It will not be decided until the last game is played, not this week, but next week. And we won't know for sure until then. We do know that the Earth One Eifert are going to be in the playoffs, and we do know that Goofy Ridge Runners are going to be in the playoffs. We don't know who's going to get the first round bye. That's what they're fighting about. Everyone else is fighting to get into or remain in the playoffs. I think that's pretty cool, at least if you like tension and drama, or like me, you're a contending team who desperately needs a path into the playoffs, and that seems mighty cool to us. All right. Other things to report about our standings, the way things work. No, that's about it. We've got 2 weeks left. Everyone has to win. Everyone needs everyone else to lose to secure their place. And of course that won't happen. So, what games do we have this week? Because that affects who's got to win and who's got to lose. I do this stuff to fill the time so that I can say I did a video for this week. But also so you don't have to. So brownie points will be accepted at any point. And also I'm wearing the tie again this week. It came back to work. Don't ever say I don't read what you post, and then 70-80% of the time, listen. Right? There it is. And that's a full Windsor knot right there. It might be a half Windsor knot. I tied it 12 weeks ago. I can't remember. But it's one or the other. And it's a very nice blue and brownie tie, even though the colours don't show. Stop talking about the tie. Alright, so the games have finally come up for this week. Alright, looking at it for the first time, Goofy Ridge Runners are facing Dante's Me Bro, because that's just my luck. A team that doesn't need to win this week and is just fighting for a first round bye, desperately and deservedly so. Highest scoring team in this week is going to go face Dante's Me Bro. So we're out. Also, I'll point out, I have all my excuses made this week. Of all the contending teams facing the highest scoring team in the league this week, in a week they need to win, half my team got injured last week. I mean, if there was an injury in the NFL last week, they're on my fantasy team. And I've been blessed with not having many injuries on my teams this year, last year, or the year before, so I guess it's comeuppance. And yeah, their injuries are comeuppance for me. That makes sense, but ignore that. But anyway, AJ Green, you might have heard, has a small tear, not a full tear, but a small tear in his hamstring, which means he's going to be at least out for a couple of weeks. So that's fun. That's my best player on the bench. And next we have CJ Procise, who pulled off first NFL game action, first game as a starter, pulled off the best, to my eyes, the best long run touchdown of the season. I mean, it was really good to watch. I knew he was big, I knew he was fast, I knew he played wide receiver before he came running back. I didn't know he was that good. It's going to be really interesting to see where he goes this week. I think Rawls is going to pull away in people's opinions these next few weeks, since it's his job now. and then I'm hoping you all forget him by the time next year's draft comes along, because he looked great, and I will not forget to draft him next year. I think he can take roles, but I've been wrong about so much this season. I won't put much on it. But anyway, after scoring that beautiful 70-yard touchdown run, he hurt his, what is it with Procise? It's his shoulder blade or shoulder thing back here hurt, and he's out for at least 1 week, maybe more. So he's back to the bench. And then we've got Giovanni Bernard, also on my team, has tore his ACL, which is obviously more concerning for him and his career, although he did sign a 4-year deal, so that's good. And so he's on the waiver wire now. He won't be coming back this season. So that's great. Now that might not seem bad because Giovanni Bernard wasn't a starter for me. A.J. Green, that's a big loss, but I have a lot of good wide receivers. In fact, my main difficulty each week was picking the right ones. But also Stephon Diggs didn't turn up to practice today, and I have no idea why. They're not even telling us. He seems to be injured, and he plays on Thursday. So missing practice today probably means he's going to be limited or not play on Thursday. And I can tell you what it is, because this is my season. They will say he's going to play, and they will say he's going to play, and he'll be active for the game, and the game will start, and he won't play. Because that's it, because he's on my team. But still, I've got no idea what to do with my roster this week, mostly because of injuries. So yeah, of all the contending teams, I am the one that's struggling the hardest. Not because I'm so awesome, even though I am, but because I have lost valuable parts of my team this week going into this must-win, everyone's competing week. For the other teams, they're still strong. Let me see, let me just click on a few of them here to give you an idea of it, because you're not boring enough to click around everyone else's team like I am. Texas Pugs, remember, still have Le'Veon Bell. Has not been injured. Devontae Parker, I think, has finally emerged. Like Des Bryant, I mean, I don't know how much fantasy you play outside of this, but if you're looking for pickups, it's been about the same amount of time since Devontae Parker had that surgery on his foot as Des Bryant. I don't think this is randomness, or occasionally have a good game, occasionally go by, occasionally you won't. Maybe because of Tannehill, but he was a first-round pick, lauded to be the next A.J. Green. The last 2 games, he's looked like it. I don't think this is random, and I can see the Pugs have put them in as flex this week. Don't take my word for it, but I think that's a really good idea. I think he's emerging, and the only thing that can hold him back is a bad quarterback, which has been holding everyone back, so maybe it still will, but I really think he's back fully healthy and showing that he is a legitimate wide receiver. He's not going to be a bust. Kevin White! Not really. Kevin White's awesome. Moving on to not Jerry's Cowboys. 2 strong quarterbacks, which matter not, but there you go. They still have DeMarco Murray. Jeremy Hill now gets a bigger role. Oh, I think he might struggle in it because with no one else to pass to but Tyler Eifert and Brandon LaFell, I think it's going to become real easy to defend Cincinnati at this point, and their defense has sucked enough this year that I think they're going to be throwing more than they're running. So, I don't know, maybe, but still, he's got a bigger role than he had last week, and the not Cowboys own him for their team. Also, Crowder's emerged and been consistent the last few weeks, even with Jordan Reed back in the lineup, so that's good. They've got 3 great tight ends. They fell into the Martellus Bennett trap last week. He's always got good upside, as anyone in New England has, and just in case you were wondering what happened. When Gronk wasn't in the lineup at the start of the season, Bennett was a blocker. He only started catching passes, and if Gronk's tired, he goes and catches a touchdown. When Gronk's in the lineup, I think outside of that, he's going to be a blocker. But it doesn't matter because they've got Kyle Rudolph and Travis Kelce, which are 2 great tight ends to have to choose between, right? Demaryius Thomas is their flex, and while he's not been probably haven't thought of him much this season because he's got Simeon as a quarterback. Simeon's been consistent, more consistent than most of these these so-so quarterbacks. And if you look at Demaryius Thomas's numbers, they're amazingly consistent, which is gold in fantasy. So not Jerry's Cowboys look to remain solid. They've not lost a step. They're continuing with their momentum going into next week. Saxby Cutler, who did lose last week, is the one trying to retain their sixth place playoff spot. Have Aaron Rodgers, who can't not run the ball. I mean, they just picked up Christian Michael, and they say they're going to run it, but it's Christian Michael. So I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball much, especially against Philadelphia, whose running defense has been really good this season. And he's only had like half a week of retraining, I guess, in their offense. So he's still going to be throwing a lot. Not Ty Montgomery, because they don't like winning, but he's still going to be throwing a lot. Frank Gore has been like just the most consistent running back this season, and I'm not even joking. Not only has he been consistent, but solid consistency. I mean, his floor is 11. If outside of the top 3 running backs in the league, if you've got a running back whose floor is 11, let me know. I don't think there's one, apart from Frank Gore. Jarvis Landry, with the emergence of Parker, I'd actually be even more worried about Landry than I was at the start of the season, which I shouldn't. But has got a proven track record of disproving that kind of reasoning. Marvin Jones has been struggling, but again, they have been winning. They have the 6th playoff berth with these players. They have not lost a step. They have lost Gronk, but they're replacing him with Jimmy Graham, who turns out to be pretty good after all, despite that knee injury that no one else has come back from. Now someone has come back for it. Michael Crabtree has been slacking over the last few weeks, which is probably why these players are why Saxby Cutler haven't been able to pull away, but they're still the good team that got that record in the first place. Alshon Jeffrey is suspended. Yeah, you can see why this is a contending team that hasn't been able to pull away despite being at the top of that contending pile, because these players have been struggling recently. So yeah, but their starting lineup is all solid. It's the one they've been using the last few weeks, and still have a 5-6 record like everyone else trying to contend. Anybody? You know that moment when your kid walks past in 1 a.m. with the arm of a chair in his fist? I should find out what that's about. Later, fantasy football to talk about. Okay, so those are the teams that are contending, and I think they're in better shape, and none of them are going up against this highest scoring team in the league. So yeah, but still, who knows? Maybe they're affected by buys. Goofy Ridge Runners, everyone on bye? No one on bye. And Tom Brady, Ezekiel Elliott. Shouldn't say this because I'm playing you, but Matt Forte's in your lineup again. Someone I was listening to pointed out that if the Jets get behind, like they did from week 3 to week 7, week 6, they tend to turn towards Powell. But then again, I think you own Powell as well. Anyway, it's your choice. But someone I was listening to was saying Forte might struggle this week. He hasn't struggled every other week, so probably not. And the matchup's green according to ESPN. And outside of that, just Brandon Cooks to worry about. That's no problem then. Rashard Matthews, Greg Olsen, Brandon Marshall. So yeah, it's been fun. It was fun there for a second, but still. Other matchups for this week. Stony Jabronis are going to go try and secure their playoff berth against the Texas Pugs. So the Texas Pugs are literally in a game that can drag a team down that they can then beat. So this is one of the key matchups this week, as I would say. I mean, Goofy Ridge Runners can win or lose. They're still in the playoffs, and it would be an upset. I'm not just saying that like I sometimes try and reverse jinx, but yeah, it would be an upset. But this game is one of the key matchups because Stony Jabronis really need to win. They're going to be in the playoffs, I think, but they're one of those paths that I was talking about. And the Texas Pugs are one of those teams looking for a path. And so that's that's one of the matchups to watch this week. I know it's when Eifert and Saxby Cutler. Okay, I'm sorry, Sax. I was taking credit for having the worst matchup. You do. You've been struggling well over the last few weeks because of those players I was mentioning, Marvin Jones and Crabtree suffering. You really need to win this week, and you're going up against the second highest team in the league, who's on a 6-game winning streak, which probability-wise probably puts it in your favor, but mathematically probably makes it a harder matchup for you. But still, that's another good matchup to watch. But again, it doesn't really matter for Erasmus Eifert. It really does for Saxby Cutler. So they're in the same position as Dantes Nubro this week. Need to win up against the odds. So I think we're going to be the ones that fall behind, but not a key matchup as opposed to the overall, like the Stonehenge Bronies and Texas Pugs matchup affects 3 or 4 teams, the outcome of it. Either way, it's going to up and down several other teams. Sanchez Butt Fumbles and the Honey Badgers are going up against each other. Doesn't matter for Sanchez. It matters for you. I mean, fight for your team totals. That can affect you in the consolation bracket. But Honey Badgers do need to win, but they're not going up against a contender. And then you've got Not Jerry's Cowboys facing Kentucky Aardvarks, so that's a similar situation there, where one team's not a contender anymore outside of the consolation bracket. You still have to set your lineup. Please do that, and thank you for doing it. But Not Jerry's Cowboys has to win to stay in contention, and they're on a hot streak right now. So the odds put them in their favor as far as ESPN gives us odds. So yeah, those are the matchups this week. I think the key one is Stonehenge Bronies and Texas Bugs, because they're two teams in the same matchup that are in this middle class trying to fight their way into a playoff berth. Then you've got 2 teams going to beat up 2 of the contenders, and 2 teams that are contending going to beat up, supposedly, as our standings say it. I mean, doesn't mean anything. Those are already out. So that's the way the week's matchup goes. Let's look at. I'm gonna look at that matchup. Ooh, poor Pugs. They're in a matchup that can literally put them in the playoffs, right? They can win and also help drag one of those teams down, which provides them a path to the playoffs. And they have 2 players in their lineup that are on bye. But it's Terrell Pryor and Marcus Mariota. So that's not so bad. Because their bench quarterback is Derek Carr, who's the 7th overall point scorer in the quarterback position this year. So you'll probably be switching those 2 out anyway. And then Terrell Pryor, well, he's been good. Let's face it, he's probably one of the more reliable, startable wide receivers going on right now. Cameron Meredith isn't a great choice because of the loss of Jay Cutler. Not that Jay Cutler is great. Will Will Fuller ever play again? I know he's been playing, but it's almost been as if he isn't. Again, he's tethered to Brock Osweiler. Alan Hearns tethered to... Okay, Pugs, I would go pick up wide receivers this week. There's always a bunch of good wide receivers on there. Or maybe you want to start one of yours. I'm not going to start making any decisions for you, but this is a must-win week for the Texas Pugs, and they have Terrell Pryor, who they're probably going to need to make a plan to fill that role. But again, Parker's in their lineup, and he is, I think, going to be a solid player from here on out, dependent on how well Tannehill plays. Anyway, I'm just talking now. I'd say it to you instead of rolling around in my head. Maybe I can think about more important things like the electricity bill or something instead. Probably not. Alright, so that's where we stand. It's definitely all up for grabs. And remember, because it's a Thanksgiving week, Merry Thanksgiving, just in case I forgot to say it on this video. I've tried several times to record it. And because it's Thanksgiving week, there are like three games that are on Thursday. So make sure you check your schedules. Like sometimes we need to leave them till later in the week. I do it all the time. I pretend I'm mental gaming people. I'm not. But sometimes I'll switch people in and out my lineup all week. That's fine, of course, but because there are several teams playing on Thursday, you might catch yourself out. So make sure you know when they're playing if you want to decide, if you want to make a late decision on whether to play. In the case of my team, like I've got Stefan Diggs and Eric Ebron and Matthew Stafford. So if I'm dithering with who to play at quarterback, then I want to make that decision by Thursday, because one of them plays on Thursday. and because there's just more Thursday games, we might get caught out that way. So keep that in mind. Good luck on your waiver claims. Good luck this week. And again, I don't think much will be decided this week. I think it's really going to come down to the last week. Now, teams can get thrown out, but I think there's still going to be at least 3 and 4 fighting for playoffs next week as well. So we're really not going to know for sure until next week. I've never seen it come down to the very last week either, so that'll be fun, one way or the other. Alright. Set your lineups, make sure no one's on bye, make sure everyone's that's playing on Thursday that you want to use is in your lineup by Thursday, because we have more people playing on Thursday this week. Have a great Thanksgiving. Buy JK Knives. Be kind. Pass it on. Any other cliches I can think of? No. Have fun. Thanks again. And good luck this week.